everyone. Wendy Taylor here, and I'm excited to be with you one more evening. And I just have something I want to share with you. The last couple days, my husband and I, every morning, we're getting outside to see whether we could walk in this hot, humid weather. And finally, the other morning, it was just beautiful. The humidity was gone, and we went for a lovely walk over by the river. And before we got to the river, we were walking along the sidewalk, and we noticed this one house just stood out. And as we looked over, I realized that that little house had been for sale for a long time. And every time we ever looked at that house, it had such a messy yard. It had swings in the front yard with toys everywhere. It was really disheveled looking. And this time, all of a sudden, it had pink balloons hanging in front of the house. It said happy birthday. They had a new concrete driveway. Everything was trimmed down nicely. So we knew the house had sold and new owners had taken over. And you know, this little house all of a sudden stood out on our street. The house beside it, I would say, is probably worth over $500,000 more than the little house beside it. And yet, if you were to look at this block, that little house is what would stand out. And when I saw that, it just, all of a sudden, a little message went through my mind, and I thought, this is what I have to speak about when we do our live on Thursday night. You know, that little house was saying something. It was saying, somebody lives here and somebody cares. And you know, I often think that is like our lives. People are watching us more than we realize. They may see us, and are they seeing a person that really cares, a person that loves others, a person that sets a good example, a person that loves Jesus and has God living through their lives? Or are they seeing somebody that is just struggling and is always looking their worst and always grumbling, always negative, always upset? What are people seeing when they look at our lives? Are we standing out like an example? Or are we looking at look like that person that they would not want to be like? Well, you know, before we set an example to other people, we need to, first of all, do a little house cleaning in our own lives. And today I'm going to read a few verses for you in Galatians 5:19 to 25. And I'm reading a few more verses than I usually read, but I just think this is so important with going along with our message that I'm sharing tonight. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are adultery, fornication, uncleanliness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wraths, strifes, seditions, heresies, envy, murder, drunkenness, revelings. This is starting to sound like our news that we watch every night of what is going on in the world. As I have told you in the time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. And they that are crucified, that are Christ, have crucified the flesh with the affections and lusts. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. Now, what are people seeing when they see our lives? You know, sometimes I hear people saying, do as I say, don't do as I say, don't do what I do. I've even heard parents say that to their children. Don't imitate what I do, just do what I say. Well, I'm sorry, people are watching our lives. Not long ago, there was a basketball player that came on, and he said that he didn't want to be an example to other people. He was not trying to set an example. He didn't want people following his example. And I thought, but you are an example. You are standing in front of people that are watching your life, and they are going to do what you do. So our lives are being watched by people. What are they seeing? You know, it's time that we clean out the junk. I can remember one time, this is a kind of a silly example, but this is true. This is a true story. I was a Christian, and I was also watching soap operas. They were very popular at that time, and all afternoon, that's all you could watch is soap operas. So I was into it. I loved watching from day to day. In fact, I resented if anybody called at the time my soap opera was on. And one afternoon, after the soap opera was on, I realized I hadn't had my prayer time, so I started praying. And all of a sudden, I found myself praying for the people on the soap opera that they wouldn't get a divorce. Now that is ridiculous. I realize that now. But when I said those words and it hit me that this was becoming reality to me, and I'm actually praying for people on the soap opera, I realized this is it. This is the end of those days. I'm not watching any more soap operas. This has become too far real in my life, and I don't need to watch this junk anymore. And that was when I cut off my soap operas, and I've never watched one since. In fact, if I flicked through and I saw one, I would go through it real quickly. I'd pass on to the next channel so that I wouldn't even be tempted to watch again. But that's just a little example how sometimes these little things can creep in to our lives, even as Christians. You know, even if, I'm sure all of us have cleaned out closets, and recently I've done some house cleaning in my room, and there's some things that you throw out and you figure, this is garbage, I don't need this anymore. And then there's other things you think, this is a definite, yes, I have to have this. But then there's all those middle things that you're wondering, I don't need it right now, but who knows, I might need it 6 months from now or a year from now, or that outfit doesn't fit me right now, but perhaps it will in 6 months from now. I'm going to lose some weight. And so we hang on and we hang on and we hang on. And guess what? Our closets are cluttered with junk and things that we're hoping one day we'll be able to use. And you know, that's a lot like our lives. We clutter up our lives with things that are not important, things that are not really useful, things that we don't need. And yet here they are, cluttered with all kinds of junk. And all of a sudden we realize that I don't like what I'm seeing when I look in the mirror anymore. I don't like the person I'm becoming because of all that clutter. And you know, the interesting thing about clutter is that once you get rid of it, you don't miss it anymore. I couldn't get over that when we moved from our last house, which was a large house of about 5 bedrooms and 3 sitting rooms, and we had a lot of area. And every closet was packed and full, and our double garage was full. We moved into an apartment. And I knew that we were not going to be able to carry all that with us. So we opened up a storage area, moved everything into it, and slowly moved things into our apartment that we needed. When we filled our apartment, we realized we still had more than half of our things still in storage. So we were able to give a lot of things away. Few things we sold, most of it we gave away. And I was kind of sad as I saw these things leaving. There were pictures that I liked. There were all kinds of things. But you know what happened? I didn't miss it a bit. Once I moved into my apartment and we got settled here, I just loved having it clean and fresh and not having all this junk sitting around that we weren't going to use. So one thing about living in an apartment or a condo, you are going to have to constantly be cleaning out because things seem to come in the door, but there's no room to store it. So that's a good thing because I'm constantly cleaning out, trying to keep things just relevant as to what I need. Well, you know, we need to look at our own lives and say, what is important for my life? What is going to help me to get where I want to go? God has a purpose and a plan for each of our lives. And the sooner we find that out, the better for all of us. But as we're on that walk with God, trying to move forward and trying to find out what He wants in us, we need to make sure we're cleaning out the clutter, clean out all that stuff that really is not going to get you anywhere. It's just bogging you down. And when we do that, something miraculous happens. We won't miss that stuff, because what God is going to fill our lives with instead is going to be joy, peace, love, and we're going to have strength. We're going to have opportunities to be an example for Him. We're going to have ministries that will open up. We'll have a purpose and a plan in our lives that we couldn't even imagine before, because God is going to open those doors for us now. So don't be afraid to give up those things that are not taking you anywhere. They're bogging you down. Maybe they're habits, bad habits you have. Smoking, overeating, and that's one that I struggle with sometimes and still working on that. Whatever it is, let go of those things and try to be the person that God has called you to be, letting go of the clutter and just becoming all that He wants to do in your life. And you'll be amazed what will happen. So I'm going to leave you with those few words. I hope that has touched somebody's heart today. If so, please give us a like, share it with your friends, give us a little comment. I love reading your comments. I read everyone afterwards. And you take care. And if you want to see the other lives that I've done, we have a channel on YouTube that you can look up, and you'll be able to see the other lives that we've been doing for actually a couple years now. So take care and have an awesome week, and I will be with you next Thursday at 7:30 once again. Okay, bye-bye.